Have you ever wondered how a culture could thrive in the harsh climates of Scandinavia, living off the land and sea, without the benefits of agriculture? Today, we delve into the intriguing world of the pitted Ware culture, one of the last hunter-gatherer cultures of Europe. The origins of the pitted Ware culture, named after their distinctive pottery marked with pits, can be traced back to around 3200 BC. This was a time when most of Europe was transitioning from hunting and gathering to farming. Yet, in the south of Scandinavia, amidst the thick forests, fjords, and seas, the pitted Ware culture managed to thrive in their old ways. Their culture is believed to have been a continuation of Scandinavian hunter-gatherer communities, with strong genetic influence from the funnelbeakers. The funnelbeakers were primarily farmers, introducing agriculture to the region. Pitted Ware people, such as the two this video is about, had to compete and coexist with newcomers from the south to survive. Their disappearance reflects a wider migration pattern we can observe in Bronze Age Europe, of old Europeans being wiped out by Indo-European newcomers. Over time, the pitted Ware culture developed a sophisticated way of life. They primarily hunted seals and fished, adapting to their harsh surroundings. Their settlements were usually located near the sea, and they utilized the resources it provided to the fullest. They were skilled at crafting tools from bone and stone, and their pottery was distinct, decorated with patterns of pits. The pitted Ware culture coexisted with the funnelbeaker culture, and later the battle axe culture. The battle axe culture, also known as the boat axe culture, was part of the larger corded Ware culture, which marked the arrival of Indo-Europeans in Scandinavia. Despite these events, the pitted Ware culture managed to maintain their unique lifestyle for about 1,000 years. The language of the pitted Ware culture is shrouded in mystery. Some linguists suggest connections to the Vasconic languages, a group of pre-Indo-European languages spoken in Western Europe. Others propose a link to pre-Germanic languages. Numerous non-Indo-European place names in Scandinavia may reflect the languages of the pitted Ware culture or other old European languages. By around 2300 BC, the pitted Ware culture began to decline. The reasons behind this are unclear, but it may have been due to climatic changes, pressure from expanding agricultural communities, or a combination of both. Regardless, the pitted Ware culture left an indelible mark on the history of Scandinavia. In this video, we will explore the autosomal DNA, predicted phenotype, and traits of two pitted Ware culture individuals. I want to remind you that this is part 4 to my series on the pitted Ware culture. Make sure to watch the other 3 parts. The individuals covered in this video are ajv28 and ajv36. ajv36 is a female with mitochondrial DNA U5, a hunter-gatherer maternal lineage. ajv28 is another female with mitochondrial DNA U4, a hunter-gatherer maternal lineage. Let's begin this exciting video.
Alright, so let's begin with ajv28. With NOSHACOT 2, she's predicted to have blue eyes, snub-shaped nose, and either red or blonde hair. As you can see, the prediction for hair color is kind of split between red and blonde. Blonde is slightly edging forward, 39 versus 34%, but there is a pretty high likelihood of her having red hair as well. And the reason for this prediction is that she has one derived variant in IRF4, which has to do with a lot of things like red hair, blue eyes, pale skin. It's just a pretty important variation for depigmentation, and it's found very high frequencies. It's found in European hunter-gatherers. It's not really found in modern Europeans all that much. She has blue eye haplotype 1 and blue eye haplotype 2 and blue eye haplotype 3, so she got the whole package. Definitely very light color hair, eyes, and skin. And she actually does have some genotypes for darker pigmentation of skin as well. I colored them in red on the right of the screen, SLC45A2, and ASIP, she's got some dark color variants there, but that's typical even for modern Europeans. There is no reason to assume she had any kind of darker skin tone. And she's got, according to her genotypes in SLC24A4, she's got lighter eye color, and she's got 2 derived variants in TIRP1's variation, which is kind of like the main variation in TIRP1 that matters the most, which is typical for Europeans and leads to lighter traits. Overall, we can say that she's a very light color individual. With my hair shape predictor tool, she's predicted to have straight hair, and with my eye shape predictor tool, she's actually predicted to have Middle Eastern shaped eyes, which basically all that means is she's got Caucasoid or West Eurasian eye shape, not East Asian, not Sub-Saharan African, just kind of Caucasoid eye shape. Yes, it says Middle Eastern instead of Estonian or like typical for Northern Europeans, but it's still kind of in the ballpark. Now we're moving on to the phenotype of ajv36. She's predicted to have green or hazel eyes with my NOSHACOT tool. She's predicted to have snub-shaped nose, and she's predicted to have blonde hair. As you can see in the image, I depicted her with sort of greenish or maybe like very vibrant green eyes. Not so much hazel, but like vibrant green eyes. She has blue eye haplotype 1 and blue eye haplotype 2. BH3 is undetermined, but if we look at the general trends with these pitted Ware individuals, she probably has BH3 as well. We just can't really confirm that with her DNA. As far as DNA goes, if I had a higher quality file, I could maybe confirm that or disprove that. But she's got some darker variants in SLC45A2, Keto G, and ASEEP, which is the reason why she's predicted to have darker color eyes and everything else. And with my eye shape predictor tool, she's predicted to have Estonian eye shape, so typical Northern European, Northeast European eye shape. And for hair shape predictor tool, she's predicted to have wavy hair. With snipper free, she's actually predicted to have blue eyes, red hair, and white skin. The prediction for red hair is really bogus. She doesn't have any derived variants in MC1R. The only reason you could even make the assumption that she could have red hair is based on her genotype in IRF4, where she has she has a lot of derived variants in the IRF4 gene, and IRF4 gene is pretty big in like red hair and blue eyes and pale skin. So you could make the case that she probably could have reddish color hair, like maybe strawberry blonde. But my tool isn't really giving her a red hair prediction. My tool thinks she's blonde, and she's got some other light coloring variants where you can read them on the bottom right of the screen. In red are the most important variants, and in orange are the pretty important variants, and everything that's in black is kind of not all that significant when it comes to phenotype. Moving on to GD match, this is what ajv28 scores with Eurogenes K13. As you can see, she is very white, like the North Atlantic and the Baltic category are pretty much the benchmarks of what it is to be white and to have sort of Northern European genetic drift, and she has a lot of Northern European genetic drift. This is pretty much a modern Northern European individual in terms of admixture, except with less farmer and less Indo-European blood. This is what AJV scores with the MDL-PK11 Oracle. She seems to get modeled as a mixture of various modern Europeans plus hunter-gatherers, so she's more hunter-gatherer than modern Europeans are. She's actually getting modeled as a mixture of half hunter-gatherer plus half modern European, and she actually has 2.5% Caucasus HG with PondDNA LK12. You can feel free to pause and ponder these results, but the thing is, with these kind of results, you can see that she's got a lot of European farmer admixture, but not a lot of Caucasus admixture, not a lot of Yamna. This individual doesn't have any Yamna admix, and that's because these pitted Ware individuals, they didn't have Yamna admixture. They were a mixture of Scandinavian hunter-gatherers plus the funnel beaker, so they have a little bit of funnel beaker blood, a little bit of Anatolian farmer blood, and not any Yamna admixture. With PondDNA LK10, you can see closest to Estonians and Lithuanians because these are simply the modern Europeans with the most hunter-gatherer admixture. The most hunter-gatherer blood are Estonians, Lithuanians, various Baltic folk. This is what AJV28 is scoring with Ancient Eurasia K6. As you can see, she's scoring some Natufian, and that's the reason why she's getting modeled as a mixture of Finnish plus Hungarian hunter-gatherer or Finnish plus Western hunter-gatherer. That's because she's got some Natufian, she's got some Southern admixture. Less than what's typical for Finnish people, less than what's typical for the most Northern Europeans today. The most Northern of the Northern Europeans today have more Southern or Mediterranean admixture than this individual, just to make it clear. Maybe Sami people in the far north of Scandinavia, maybe they have about as much Southern or Mediterranean admixture as this individual, but any like mainstream mainland European is a lot more Southern and a lot more Mediterranean than these two individuals. Now let's move on to AJV36, who is our green-eyed girl. As you can see, she is scoring pretty similar stuff on Eurogenes K13 to AJV28, but with the other calculators, you're actually going to see that she's a little bit more Southern and a little bit more like Mediterranean has a little bit more Mediterranean blood than ajv28. This is what she scores with MDL-PK11 modern. As you can see, she's scoring a lot of Neolithic, and EHG here is once again a southern component. It doesn't represent Eastern hunter-gatherers, it represents Caucasus hunter-gatherer admixture. Although Eastern hunter-gatherers also score it a little bit because of, you know, some affinities to Caucasus groups, which is not a topic for this video at all, but you can watch some of my other videos on Eastern hunter-gatherers to clear up your understanding of this issue. With the Oracle, she's getting modeled as a mixture of modern European plus European hunter-gatherer, and this is what she scores with PanDNA LK12. The point is, she's more Anatolian Neolithic farmer, and she's more Caucasus shifted than ajv28. She's scoring 27.7%, so almost 28% Anatolian Neolithic with PanDNA LK12. This is pretty much in line with modern Northeast Europeans, about as much as what modern Northeast Europeans score with this calculator. Of course, she lacks the Caucasus admixture, which modern Eastern Europeans have, because modern Eastern Europeans are Indo-European people for the most part, except like Finnish people, but they're also Indo-European if you go back further enough. Now, with PanDNA LK10, this is what she's scoring, and she's scoring 13% ENF. Now, if you remember the previous individual was scoring 10% ENF. So ajv36, our green-eyed girl, is a lot more southern and a lot more Mediterranean admixtured than ajv28, and you're gonna see with the Oracle still very northern results, still obviously very northern, and even more northern, more European hunter-gatherer blood than what's typical for even Estonians, but you see that this individual nonetheless is more Mediterranean and more southern than ajv28. Once again, look at the Natufian here with Ancient Eurasia K6, 21% Natufian. Compare that with the 16% Natufian that we saw in ajv28. Big difference. So you can see this individual, this green-eyed girl, is more southern and more Mediterranean in blood. She's actually getting modeled as a mixture of half Western hunter-gatherer plus half Turkish. So yeah, definitely very southern shifted relative to these Scandinavian hunter-gatherers that inhabited Scandinavia prior, like in the Mesolithic. Now we will be taking a look at their traits with my genome analyzer tool that you can find on my website. Let's begin with... no, it's wrong folder. Let's begin with ajv28. So that's the blue-eyed girl. So ajv28 has got GG in Comte's Val-Met variation, meaning Val-Val, meaning warrior. Very interesting stuff. Higher activity of the Comte enzyme and quicker breakdown of dopamine. This is a genotype that's typical for everybody who's not a European. Europeans tend to have the MET allele present in their genome. For example, I'm Val-Met, for example, but some Europeans are even MET-MET. So like warrior. What about MAOA, TT here, which leads to lower activity of the MAOA enzyme and slower breakdown of dopamine, thus higher dopamine levels and certain advantages in attention tasks. So this is the opposite of this. So here she's got Val-Val genotype, which means warrior, but here she's got TT, which means warrior. So these two are conflicting genotypes. Both MAOA and Comte are enzymes that break down dopamine. So her genotype in Comte is that she'd likely have a little bit more Comte activity, more activity breaking down dopamine with the Comte enzyme, but less activity with the MAOA enzyme. So overall, probably average or intermediate levels of dopamine if you consider all that together. AA or 2 derived no-go learner variants in DRD2's provenance in pro variation. This is a super European genotype to have. Reduction in the risk of schizophrenia, increased likelihood of no-go learning, and the ability to withhold a response when it's not warranted, in case you didn't know what that is. And GG here, which means less dopamine D2 receptor sites and decreased risk of schizophrenia. Well, these two go together. So it's kind of, you can predict one using the other. You can impute genotype in one of these variations using the genotype in the other. CC here in DRD2, which is the typical genotype for most humans and leads to slightly higher number of D2 dopamine receptor sites and better memory performance. TC here in DRD1, which is implicated in slightly higher odds of bipolar and schizophrenia. What about 5-HTTLPR? TT here, which typical genotype for most humans, and the implications of this genotype is that this individual does not have long-form 5-HTTLPR and does not have a decrease in the risk of depression. Most people have TT, most people have short-form 5-HTTLPR. Some people are the exception, like I'm the exception. I have long-form 5-HTTLPR and lower risk of depression, but that's not you guys. That's probably not you. It's pretty rare. I'm just kind of lucky, I guess. For lactose persistence, this individual, this blue-eyed girl, does not carry the European lactose persistence mutation. No European lactose persistence. For the empathy gene, lower levels of empathy, one variant for higher levels of empathy, and one variant for lower levels of empathy here. But this is the main one that's not genotyped. She's not genotyped here, so I don't really know. But it seems like she's maybe had a little bit less OXTR activation. For diabetes, AA here, which leads to a significant increase in the risk of type 1 diabetes. Okay, so this is the most important genotype here, right? This leads to 7-fold increase in the risk of type 1 diabetes. And I'm noticing with these European hunter-gatherers that a lot of them, well, maybe that's an overstatement. I've seen another pitted Ware culture individual who also had the same genotype here. And this genotype is really rare in modern humans. I mean, in humans in general. I'm not just saying modern or ancient, but it's just a pretty rare genotype. So I'm thinking maybe this type 1 diabetes risk might be something that's attributable to the pitted Ware culture individuals and European hunter-gatherers in general. For hemochromatosis, not a carrier for any of the 3 variants. For Alzheimer's, no risk alleles here, no risk alleles here, no APOE risk alleles, and the other 3 don't really matter. For myopia, oh snap, GG here, which leads to a significantly lower risk of myopia and greater quality of eyesight. This is rare. You don't see this often. Most people have AA here, which leads to slightly higher, slightly maybe a little bit increased risk of myopia, just kind of average, but slightly higher. But she's got the rare variant, she's got GG, and she's actually got 2 derived variants. She's got 2 rare variants here, which lead to a significantly lower risk of myopia and greater quality of eyesight. Very interesting to see here. So she probably wasn't wearing glasses like me. For miscellaneous section, well, I'm not gonna voice that. This I'm also not going to voice, but you can just pause the video and read what it says on the screen. She's got this genotype for increased cranial size and 2% higher IQ, and she's got better performing muscles, likely sprinter than endurance athlete. What about drug response? More likely to gain weight if taking olanzapine, significantly higher odds of weight gain if taking Zyprexa. So if she was taking Zyprexa, she'd probably gain a lot of weight. For albinism, not a carrier, but she has this genotype, which is atypical, which leads to a 2.5 increased risk for cleft lip. Okay, nice. Now let's move on to ajv36, which is our green-eyed girl. Alright, ajv36, she's got TT here, which leads to lower activity of the MAOA enzyme and slower breakdown of dopamine. Once again, this is a Ware genotype in MAOA. We don't really know what she's got in COMT, but we do know she's got the Ware genotype in MAOA, which means more dopamine buildup in the system. So propionate probe not determined. TAC1, GG in TAC1, which is the typical genotype for most humans and leads to a slightly higher number of D2 dopamine receptor sites. Now some people have AA here. So G is sort of the G is called the A2 allele, whereas A is called the A1 allele. So if you have A1, if you have the A in your genotype somewhere, if you have like AG or maybe God forbid you have AA, what that means is you would have a lot less dopamine D2 receptor sites and a significantly increased risk of ADHD and Parkinson's, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of nasty things that come with less dopamine D2 receptors. However, this individual has GG, which is the typical genotype for most humans, and which means normal amount of D2 dopamine receptor sites, not any decrease, and normal risk for ADHD and alcoholism and various other illnesses that I did not list on the screen. TT here, which is in 5-HTTLPR, which is the typical genotype for most humans, and does not have long-form 5-HTTLPR. Once again, she's got short-form 5-HTTLPR like most humans and average risk of depression. For lactose persistence, does not carry. For the empathy gene, AA here, which means 2 sociopath variants for reduced OXTR expression and lack of empathy. Very interesting stuff. So more sociopath than not. For diabetes, CC here, which leads to 7-fold decrease in the risk of type 1 diabetes. So she does not have the diabetes mutation that the previous individual had. For hemochromatosis, does not carry any risk variants for hemochromatosis. What about Alzheimer's? No APOE2 alleles. So for Alzheimer's, the 2 that are really important are these 2 variations. These are the 2 you have to really look out for. Everything else is kind of really minor and not so significant, right? So these two are the ones that matter the most, and she does not have, as you can see, no APOE2 alleles, so no problems with Alzheimer's. What about miscellaneous section? No micro P. I'm not going to pronounce that, but you can read what it is on the screen. 8 points lower IQ than individuals with GG genotype. Interesting. Better performing muscles, likely sprinter. What about Zyprexa? So significantly higher odds of weight gain if taken Zyprexa, but except for this one variation where she's got less likely to gain weight if taken Zyprexa. Okay. What about albinism and atypical traits? Not a carrier for this, not a carrier for this, not a carrier for Melanesian blonde hair variants. So she seems to not have any albinism or Melanesian blonde hair variants. However, she also has this genotype right here, which leads to 2.5 increased risk for cleft lip, just as our previous individual. Both the green-eyed and the blue-eyed girl have a slight increase for the risk of cleft lip. Well, thanks for watching my video until the end. You can download both of these samples in 23andMe format from link which is in the description. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and goodbye.